Rejection of the ideological body terror of modern capitalism. Or in other words, companies making you feel shit about yourself so you become a prime consumer. Yeah, it is. And the first one I'd like to share with you is in relation to the latter. It's a rejection of the ideological body terror. It's beauty culture is capitalistic oppression. The photo perfect sheen has become an obsession. It's a drug, it's addictive, it's like a depressant for all those germ-free adolescents who call me a scrab. I don't take offence as they wash away their last line of immune defence, keeping up the pretences and using hyper-reality to compensate for their dulled senses. Nip, tuck and suck, spray on the parabens, smear on the muck. Put on those shoes that deform your feet. May as well just take residence on Harley Street and fill your shelves, stack the products to the roof, because you're never going to find the fountain of youth. We just drip-fed insecurity through advertisement, pop and porn. The grass is always healthier on another person's lawn, with marketing so aggressive they should be done for assaulting. But this is a scrubber revolution and we are revolting, because it's an error to submit to the ideological body terror. Why can't we be happy with what we've got and realise that how we look shouldn't mean squat? Corporations exploiting people's vulnerability, battering their shattered egos with cold, empty, blank sterility, increasing pressure to be Mr. and Mrs. Jones. To me it's more like episode 2, Attack of the Clones. But there's another way. I'm representing the soap dodgers across the UK. That's why I wince in disgust at that Listerine you're sloshing. Because I like moshing, but I don't like washing. We should really stop and think before those CFCs in the air render us all extinct. Our corpses buried under plastic containers. We should slow down and stop. It's a no-brainer. Lather in the scented grease, reap the spoils, disrupt your skin's pH and the production of natural oils, plug in follicles and pores leading to eczema and spots. Stock up on moisturiser, because of the damage done you're gonna need lots. It's a vicious cycle, so embrace the scrat tendency and realise that shampoo is a chemical dependency. If your eyes are too small, or if you've too much hair, or if you don't have the right shaped dairy, if you don't use chlorhexidine gluconate, no one's going to want to be your mate if you don't have tits, or if you don't have pecs, or if you're fat, you're not going to have sex. That's what they tell us when they're selling us the dream, but no, it smells like teenage desperation, like Lynx and spot cream. Ambitions to achieve an Aphroditean aesthetic through the pursuit of bad diets and copious cosmetics, applied with a trowel not to be ignored. But ask yourself this, can you really afford to just lie back and take it as if you were on a recliner? Displaying the feast like a montage in a diner, exerting yourself to your pains in your heart like angina. Shave those legs and wax that vagina, indulging dieting, cosmetic surgery and implants till you pop. But your efforts will never match the sheen of Photoshop. Going back and forth like a Newton's cradle and up and down like a pogo. May as well just get branded with that Abattoir Garnier logo, incisions made in the skin for beautification. But if I do it, it's considered self-mutilation. Need to open our eyes. It's corporate manipulation, exploiting and aggravating a growing sense of isolation. But there's another way. I'm representing the great and washed across the UK. It's the only way to break free is to stop giving a fuck and be a scruff like me. Thank you. So that's the beauty culture covered. This one is about like the sort of equilibrium of humans and like sort of the moral sort of obligations and the ecological obligations that sort of go with that.
Say well.
Time's running out like a burning taper, wading through plastic packaging and wasted paper, covered in worthless words. The sound of traffic drowning out, singing birds, billboards and pollution render us oblivious to flowers in bloom, the crooked horizon dotted with tubes emitting plumes of fumes. A hole in the sky dilates like the eye of a person who's about to collapse, mirrored by the surface of the Arctic, and its melting ice caps will be washed away like fungal spores when that amount of water engulfs our shattered shores. Most of us preserve this bit of medicine that we're tasting because of years of humanity senselessly wasting. Don't they realise the supplies won't last forever? The skies retaliate with stormy weather. The unconscious collaborators flag unwittingly unfurled. In a partially forgotten, deprived corner of the world, there's a story left largely untold. Out there, you're lucky if you grow old. And all over the world, families unsheltered and cold. While out of fashion designer tops grow mildew and mould for a month, not a gram of nutrition has passed this child's lips. While tons of perfectly good food is left to fester in skips, gallons and gallons of burning oil. While fellow human beings are left in turmoil, the word extinction on my lips like back in the Jurassic, efficiently eradicating ourselves with a scorched earth tactic for our own sake. We need to stop now because we're at a crucial junction, but a third of the world is in the bubble of their own consumption. May as well take off that shirt and tie and put on that SS coat, because all over the world the waters are tainted, whether with fluoride, a dead goat, and they disassociate from their excretions into the air and the sky they mutilate. We've had a glimpse of the fantasy and developed the taste, leaving a mangled, twisted, tangled mess of waste in our wake, watching the oil burning on the surface of the lake. Think of what you're doing to this planet, for fuck's sake. Many national governments and multinational organisations, it's time for a quick and brutal defenestration. Yeah. Does everyone know what that means? Yeah.
Through a window.
It means to throw something or someone out of a window.
That's right, to defenestrate them.
Because of them, we're going environmental with a capital M. Sports cars in full sets in their private jets. Hardly use them, want to see how many more they can get. Like an intoxicated vampire on an ego trip. The blood that spills for the oil that drips. I'm microphone jack and I'm planting the seed. Some people don't seem to see the need to reduce, repair, reuse, recondition, recycle. We've been wasting for too long and it's taken the Michael. Becomes ever more important as finally now, after years, we may be seeing the completion of the Marxist cycle. Mine's a substantialist form of those who sooner worship a penny than conserve their only home. Yeah, it's our home, but it's not ours. Turn off that light. Seems you're not just burning a hole in the sky, you're drowning out the stars. We've been given a gift and turned it into hell, leaving nothing but poison, gas, acid rain and an empty shell. And the function of the mass media, it seems at a guess, is to increase consumption by means of breeding a culture of stress. Reiterate the point with little contortion. We mustn't lose sight of the fact that possibly some of this shit has been blown out of proportion. I'm not a doctor, but I've got a diagnosis. This consumption leads to more waste, which accelerates the process. And the resulting battle of the egos is going to lead to a nasty grapple like the time on Olympus with the golden apple. This system needs that spanner. The only politician I trust goes to town wearing black and a red bandana, because they fight for freedom, whereas the forces these days fight for the spoils of war. Gorge themselves sick in the faces of the poor, and when it comes to oil, they're junkies, they always want more. How dare them yuppie suckers dictate to me from the artificial plateau of their SUV. When it comes to the powers that be, we need to rip off them blinkers because they fail to see that for people in their position, they're not doing what they ought to. Fail to recognise the ripples that they're leaving for their children, sons and daughters, divide the profits amongst themselves into unequal quarters and feed the population with tainted water. No repercussions for you now as you widen the sky's hole, but we'll see what happens when you're weighing in your soul against the feather. Unless you've another explanation for this erratic weather, the planet's spiralling into cataclysm. The fifth horseman of the apocalypse is capitalism. The sky is falling in through human audacity as we seriously threaten the planet's carrying capacity. The ecosystem's had enough. This desecrated planet's no more a diamond in the rough because of our pollution, cruelty and waste. We've left Mother Earth with a bitter taste, and some still stand back and wonder why. Hate, like molten lead, drips from the wounded sky.
Oh!
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Fucking amazing.
What do you reckon to one more?
Yeah, more.
Alright, so this one is me dictionary wanking. Right? Do you know what I mean? I'm a logophile is the technical term.
Oh, right.
Someone who likes words. Yeah, you know that, do you? But it's relevant. It's relevant. It's based on a very popular sort of graphic novel series, which has also been turned into a film. And it's based on a vigilante whose face has become very popular amongst these kind of events. Please don't fear from the verbose veneer of my vile, volatile, verily versatile style, penning words and liberating goods from the supermarket aisle with the greatest of ease, gonna give those bankers and other wankers the bees. There are many ways to help this system fall, be it brawling or scrawling the manifesto on the walls, spreading the word as we're delivering our verses, dodging bullets and Masonic curses, vox populi traverses as the mist disperses. Realise that to reverse those hearses, we've got to close our purses and forget our soul-destroying, inhumane jobs and their menial salary. It's time to retire to the shadow gallery, fill the bottles, dampen the rags, lace up the steelies, pack your bags, check your pockets and take to the streets. Death or success, don't accept defeat, and the only thing we're probably going to eat is a truncheon luncheon or a bit of that totalitarianist, fascist, capitalist Babylon fist punching for the munching. As the crowds collide, feel and hear the bones crunching, boots on both sides quaking, ground is shaking, glass is breaking. This is our home and it's ours for the taking, so take the steps to make the change. Turn Downing Street into a shooting range. Just remember you're not alone. Got to reclaim this place we call a home. A vulgar display of verbiage by a voracious vocabulary, describing how to bomb the local constabulary. If you shudder with indignation at every injustice you see, then you're definitely a comrade to me, and we'll point out the violators like a cursor. Because the violence is inevitable, even vice versa, that's the zeitgeist. Vis-a-vis the venal, virulent vermin, vanguarding fatuous vice. Visions of vicissitudes with the veracity we vindicate, vouchsafe a valediction before we vacate. Feedy, vicious retaliation across the nation against the totalitarian forces of globalization. Sick of submission, with vitriolic vehemence, the verdict is vengeance, that's the volition of the valiantly virtuous. Against the sources of this vexation, driven by the view of the virgin vestige, pre-contamination.
Who's a Tory? Where's a Tory?
Why in the blue ribbon?
Oh.
Oh, let's tell everybody.
Right, everyone, we've got a guest who's rather drunk. He doesn't know where he's walked into. There's this guy up here wearing a nice little badge on his face. And he's really drunk and he doesn't know where he's landed. So we're going to give him a warm welcome. Let's go to the horrible consent and give him a hug. Because he needs more than a hug because he's already lasted.
So it's that with a blue ribbon, right?
Just be nice. Just be nice.
Defy Tory rule. Yes, so there's somebody who's from the Conservative conference right here.
Have you had a good day, Tim? Tory's out. How you doing, mate? We've got you both. Tory's out.
Sorry, mate.
How you doing? You both walked in. Tory's out. We're not from Mobia. Tory's out. Tory's out.
Tory, you cunt!
But it's supposed to be about peace and hello. Well, that's, yeah.
None of that. This is peaceful.
Yeah, of course. Ow.
Hey, look. Sold out humanity. That's not fucking fighting him. Leave him alone. Go on. You fight, mate. Leave him alone. we're not intending to like this.
Hey, don't harass him.
Makes it as bad as the Bash.
I don't want you guys to think or anything like that.
What?
Hey, give us that fucking lanyard. Hey, look! Calm down, lads. You're an absolute.
Ow. Ow.
I didn't shout at you at all. No, I can't stop berating someone. We've all got a right to our view.
Lovely stuff.
Well, it's interesting to hear what they have to say as well. Although I do actually know, but you can't. What's interesting is you can never get inside the head of someone who thinks that way.
It's always hatred that comes to it.
Well, it's not the answer, is it? Don't want to leave that though.
Relax. Honestly.
So the moment an actual person from the conference was spotted, it led to some interesting divisions amongst some of the camp supporters and the anti-Tory party conference campaigners here.
Well said, bro. It is benefits reform. It is. I don't know. Benefits reform isn't necessarily a big thing. It's more about having enough.
So.
You wouldn't expect it. We wouldn't expect a certain level of treatment.
I do agree with what they said about expanding it into social care. It really should be there to
Become integrated service. Existing services should all be operated by people who talk together. A lot of the waste that happens services overlap. And the things that come in time orderly fashion that allows them to distribute. And that is down to culture, which definitely you can say money.
As you continue following around, we're having a debate now about politics. I wouldn't mind having the same thing, which is quite rare. They're not rare in some circumstances.
My view on that is always, they haven't risked it much, it's only 4 or 6% or something. But my view on that is, if I was in a hospital, I wouldn't have it because
Yeah, I do see what you're doing.
I mean, in the end, I wish this social safety net was protected.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think the thing that angers people is the knowledge that the banks
We won't be able to do much more now.
with taxpayers' money, and then suddenly we can't find the money for social services, and you've got stuff like Biden, which the emotive language we'll be using is. I mean, I think you could just cut through it and say we have a choice. Do we want to spend 1.3 billion on something we're never going to use, or 1.3 billion on something we definitely can use? I think that would be a simple way of expressing the argument, and then people can decide. It is, but fully in real politics, you talk to get like something's a good cut when the times are hard. I can't imagine that during, let's say for example, you just had a moratorium, but you just had you stayed any further development of Trident and kept it to bare minimum skeleton staff, whatever. You could do that for 5-10 year period and cut back a lot of money that's kept running it. And it's unlikely that we're going to get nuked in the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, things like that could be talked about without it becoming a shouting match and a kind of posturing thing between middle-aged men. It's embarrassing. But Tim, it's very nice of you to stop Cool. And I think it's very brave of you to walk down here and come and check it out. Yeah, that's good. Well, I think you should encourage more of your colleagues to come and
I come from a very left-wing city, Oxford.
So do I. Oh my God.
Really?
I've just come down here today from Oxford.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised
I work for Destiny at East Oxford radio station.
Oh, I love Destiny. It's the best radio station.
Is that in Oxford?
It does no sort of DJs going on and on and on and on. It's just
What's your
music.
name? Sorry, Tim.
Tim, yeah.
And so, and you live in Oxford?
Live in Oxford, and yeah, I'm one of these.
Well, that's good. So I can definitely.
Well, but the police were all around to protect you. You must be thankful to the
Well, that's because of the Brighton bombing back in the day. But
bombing.
In the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s, there was the IRA tried to kill Margaret Thatcher.
In the
we
80s.
shouldn't be scared of people. I mean, in the end, people have.
The IRA bombed this city as well. The IRA bombed this city, yeah, when I lived here in 1999. Was it?
Arndale Centre.
The Arndale Centre.
Yes, I remember that.
And there was a guy living on the roof who didn't know it happened, and a week later, he came out. And everyone was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Why? The whole Arndale Centre had to be cleared. It was structurally unsound. Like there was like a cordon around it. This guy was living on the roof and completely didn't know what was happening."
You came here alone?
Sorry?
You came down here all alone?
Yeah.
No bodyguards.
I wouldn't do that in Salford, but I got a hotel in Salford. I'm more cautious there, but I'm sure it's just like anywhere else, isn't it? And there's rough bits of Oxford as well.
Yeah, probably not on the same scale as here, though.
Yes, you have to be careful, yeah.
There's not many guns in Blackbird Leeds.
Blackbird Leeds, that's an estate in Oxford, isn't it?
It is,
Quite a rough estate.
That's where the radio station that I worked for.
Destiny?
Yeah.
Is this mainly a dance station, or is it
Sorry?
Destiny? Is it
It
mainly
used to be
dance?
called OX105.
Oh, right, because I'm into radio, you see. Oh, so... Oh, the zoo.
Guys in peace anyway.
Yeah, so how have you found Manchester generally, with the scale of protest and so on?
It is always sort of scary when you get that sort of thing, but in the end, it's just like going canvassing. You have to find out people's views.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm one of those people who thinks, it's the one nation thing. We should represent everybody, and everybody should.
Because that's what's interesting about this. About this campaign, you can do that, yeah. Because I'm doing it. This campaign that we have here is to tell the Tories don't come to the north. But at the same time, they could be accused of ignoring the north completely if the conferences were always held in the south. So
that's the thing.
obviously,
it's good to go to places where you're not necessarily popular, and but like Labour went to Brighton, which is sort of in the south, and that's good because they get healthy feedback. And shouldn't ever be scared of an opposing point of view.
Yeah.
so
Brighton's green, isn't it?
Oh, yes, you're right. Sorry, it is.
and are you actually just someone who campaigns for the Conservative Party, or are you actually an MP?
I'm not an MP though. I campaigned for them, and I've worked for them briefly. But, I'm pretty much a left-wing Tory. I mean,
so it's kind of like you get blue Labour. You're saying you're kind of, a little bit swung to the left within the Tory
We
party.
basically you need a purple party, don't you, really?
Yeah.
I think if there was a purple party, there'd be a lot of people that would join that.
Yeah, absolutely.